Hi guys, this is Jeff at Slavens Racing. This video is an update of my original video on how to install the easy idle screw and improve your idling and starting. That video was made quite a while ago, a couple years ago, and there's some things that have kind of gone out of date on that for the newer models. And plus guys, watch the video 2 or 3 times, please, maybe more, because I constantly get emails or phone calls. The staff gets phone calls about this video, and they've spun the message in the video big time. I mean, they'll email me and say, well, you said in that video to do this and this, and I'm like, no, that is not what I said, not even close. So watch the video more than once, if you can handle that, and try to get the facts straight on it. This video, I'm going to clarify some of those facts, try to make it a little bit easier to understand, hopefully. I'm not the best at making videos, never claim to be, and I never will be. I just make these at the spur of the moment, usually when I'm down here working on my bikes in my man cave. And so I'm going to address a lot of these calls and emails that we get. All right, so first of all, I highly recommend that you watch the first video. That will help you get the throttle body off the bike. It will explain some of the things about the throttle body. And then especially if you have a 20 or 21 model, definitely watch this video multiple times to make sure you get it clear in your head. I'm not implying that you're a slow learner or anything like that, but we all have our own ways of learning. And just review the video a couple of times so that you know what you're doing, and things will work out a lot better, hopefully. All right, so first of all, I'm going to start out with, since that previous video, we've improved our idle screw, the easy idle screw. It's now made out of stainless steel, which makes them much tougher and much less likely to get stuck in the throttle body. Some guys were putting those aluminum ones in without using lubricant, or maybe a good enough lubricant, and they would get them, or they wouldn't clean their threads out well enough and get the thread locker out of there. It's a good idea if you have a tap laying around. It's 5 millimeters by 0.8 to clean the threads on the hole where the screw is here, after you get that screw out of there, and so this goes in easily. If it doesn't go in easily, stop, because with those other screws, we had some guys just try to force it in with pliers and actually snap this screw in half. Of course, they told me that they didn't grab it with pliers, but you can't grab this hard enough with your hand to twist it in half. So it had to be pliers on it. Anyhow, and anytime you're working with threads, slower is always better. Take your time, make sure things are working right. Don't just force parts together. So I want to go over, let me grab my torch over here. Forgot to kind of put that in here. Sorry about that. All right, so there's several ways that you can loosen this up. So the screw, the idle screw, some guys call it a grub screw. This idle screw that comes from the factory is right there. And this is what it looks like when it's out. It's just a little tiny screw. And the first 2 years, 18 and 19, some of them you had to use a Torx bit on this, and some of them had a 2.5 Allen. In 2021, I've not seen any of the Torx bits. I've only seen the Allens. So those, you need those 2 wrenches on hand. Excuse me, my voice is kind of sore and weak tonight. Been a long day at the office. So now, in order to get that out, we've come up with some new methods. Actually, I haven't come up with the methods, the customer has. Let me find his name here, and I'll get to him in just a minute. So the original video, I recommended you use heat, and I still do use the heat. But I only use a acetylene torch because I want to heat it up quickly. I don't want to get the entire throttle body hot. I just want to get this area here hot where the screw is. So I use this with an acetylene torch with a double-aught bit, or a double-aught tip, a 00 tip. And this is the tab where the screw goes through, so I heat right here and here. You definitely don't want to get heat on this wheel. It's plastic, and you will melt it. It melts quickly. And if you melt it a little bit, you can clean it up, some sandpaper or whatever. But put the heat right there and heat it until that thread locker on there starts smoking. It might take like a minute. But what I really want to emphasize is that when you've got your wrench in here on it, that it should come out very easily. If you have to put, some serious torque on this thing to get it out, stop, because you will strip out the inside of that head, and then you'll have a real mess on your hands. You'll need to send it to us, and we'll have to give it to our machinist, and he'll machine it out of there. So if it does not come out easily, please stop. I can't say that enough. Please stop. If you've got enough heat on it, then it will come right out. I mean, if you've got enough heat on there, it will just, just zing right out of there. If you've got to really put a lot of pressure on it to get it out, then it's not hot enough. All right, so the new method for doing this, and I have not had a chance to use this yet because all my bikes already have idle screws in them. And I just want to give a shout out to the customer. He's a good guy. I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name. Tyler is his first name. His last name, I believe, is Thusen. And he's on Instagram. Hard Enduro Life is his handle on there. So I give him a shout out for the help. But he came up with this product here called Uncure, Bob Smith Industries Uncure. Now you can get this on Google. I think that's where I bought it. I think it was like $5 or $6. And it comes handy for other things too. It's called a glue remover. And they tell you in here how you can use it, like if you glue your fingers together, you can use this stuff to melt them back loose again. And anyhow, that's what it's designed for, but he puts it on there and kind of lets it sit overnight and comes back and the screw comes right out. I think that this is a much safer alternative to the heat, especially if you guys don't have a torch. The other types of torches, the propane torches, butane torches, they just don't put out enough heat quickly enough. And so you end up heating up the whole throttle body. And I really don't like that. That's hard on the seals on this shaft and everything else. The O-rings on the air screw. So I think this is a very good alternative. I've also since found this at Hobby Lobby, because I'm sure they keep it there for people that want to unglue things or unglue their fingers or whatever. So I think this is a great thing. Give a shout out to Tyler Thusen. And so anyhow, that's an update for that part of it. What else I'd like to touch on here, the biggest misconception guys get is because they don't watch the video close enough. The first video, it's for 18 and 19 models. It's not for 2021s as far as the settings go. So this, the idea of the screw is, for one thing, let's back up just a little. Guys post all the time, I did the Slavens idle screw mod. It is not a mod. If you want to call it that, fine with me, but it's not a mod. We're not modifying anything. We took out one screw, we're putting in another screw that has a knob on it, a knob and a spring to make it easy to operate. So we're not modifying anything, and it does not change, the screw by itself does not change the performance of the bike. It allows you to adjust the idle. The 20 and 21 models tend to have a low idle, and when you're going down hills and stuff, they tend to want to die. And so this screw really helps, it fixes that problem. But it also lets you adjust this screw, which is actually the air screw. Now in the KTM manual, they call this the idle screw because they don't want you messing with the other one, because they don't want you to change the emissions. But it is an air screw. It just controls the air. Now there's a couple of videos out there that kind of over-exaggerate this, showing some great big compartment that this goes into. Well, it doesn't. It just goes into a hole. And there are two holes here. This one is for the what I'll call the fast idle knob. KTM calls it the cold start knob. But that hole goes, I don't know if you can see this or not, but sorry guys, but there's two holes here. And then the one on the side, it goes to the air screw. So it goes in, comes back out the other side. It's just a passageway that bypasses the butterfly. This is the butterfly. It bypasses that and allows more or less air in. So that's why this is truly an air screw. And so when you put in our idle screw, the easy idle screw, then you can set this where it needs to be. So on the 18 and 19 models, it usually needs to be way in, anywhere from fully closed to a half a turn out, somewhere in that area. You just set it to where you get good throttle response. On the 20 and 21 models, it needs to be way out. It needs to be around 4 to 4.5 turns out. And then as you get this set right, you might have to reset the idle because it's going to go up or down. You got to go back and forth and get the correct balance. It's easy to do. It's not complicated at all. Even if you're a beginner, you can handle this. I'm sure you've got it. You can do it. Let me think. From there, okay. So I just want to revisit that again, guys. 20 and 21 models, the screw needs to be way out. And the way you do it is you screw it all the way in first. You screw this in until it bottoms, lightly bottoms. You don't crank on it. And then you back it out 4 to 4.5 turns on the 20 and 21 models, anywhere from closed to half a turn out on the 18 and 19 models, because they were really lean. The 20 and 21 models are rich. I don't know why KTM can't hit the target a little bit better, but they just haven't yet. And this screw is not super sensitive. It's not real sensitive like the air screw on a Mikuni or a key end carburetor. It's the way it's designed, the end of it down in here is pretty rudimentary. And so, it's not super sensitive. The difference between 4 turns and 4.5 turns is not much. So anyhow, hope that clears that part of it up for you. From there, I would like to move over here to the bike. Oh, I'm going to go over one more thing here real quick. So after you've got the idle screw in, your new easy idle screw, just to make it start and idle, when you first hit the button, you need to set the gap over here. And I've explained this in the first video, and I highly recommend you watch that video before you watch this one. And I just set my calipers at, in that video I said 4.5, you can do 4.6, 4.7. And you set this gap right here. And that's just the stop for the pulley here. That has nothing to do with how the bike runs other than the idle. It's not a tuning thing. It's just so that when you first start your bike, it will start up easily and idle. If you've got that gap way too small, then it's not going to idle. It's going to start harder and it's not going to idle. And you're going to have to reach underneath the throttle body and adjust this screw real quickly. I just give you that measurement just to make it easier. It's not an exact measurement by any means. Okay, from there, we're going to move over to the bike real quick. I'm going to just show you one last thing about the throttle body. So hold on just a minute, guys, while I move over there. Okay, now I'm over here at the throttle cable area. I want to show you how to hook those up. So these cables have markings on them. If you push up this rubber boot, you can see it says open there. And then this one over here says close. And you have to install the close one first because the cables kind of overlap here, I guess you could call it. So the close one goes in this inside hole here, the one closest to the shaft. So you got to put it in first, and up there. And I just hold it there with my thumb for now. And then you put the second one in. It's the open cable. Okay, so now they're both in position. And so now before you tighten these up, reach up and blip the throttle. So you can see now it returns just fine. Now if you tighten these, so then these need to be tightened down. Oh, let's get that nut in the slot there. Okay, so they're not tight, but all right, so I'm going to check them again. Lower it down just a little bit. And then I'm going to tighten those with a wrench and just snug them up. Obviously, there's no torque spec on that. Just snug them up, put the rubber boots back down, then check it again. All right, so when you snug them up, if at that point your throttle returns slowly or feels like it's partially sticking, then you need to go up to the handlebar and adjust the cables, the free play on the cables up there. So I'm going to move up to there here in just a second. I do want to remind you though, do not forget to put this oil line back on. It's easy to forget, and it's got these little clips on the end. You can reuse those if you want. I don't even use those clips, I just take them off. Those lines stay stuck onto the spigot very well. I'm not saying you should do it that way, but you can if you want. I don't use those little clips. I think they're a pain in the butt, and I just don't even use them. And we also have these little lines for sale, because sometimes these get damaged when you're taking it apart, or if you just want to back up. We've got these. KTM sells these lines for a ridiculous price. I think it's $40 for that line. It's outrageous. We've got a pair of them for, I believe, $10. So anyhow, I'll move up above to the handlebar, show you what to do there. Hold on just a minute. All right, so if you've got everything installed down on the engine, got the throttle body back in place, you've installed the cables correctly on that end like I just showed you, and your throttle's a little bit slow to return, you need to come up here and adjust it. You don't need to lubricate the cables, you don't need to lubricate the throttle. Well, maybe if you had a recent crash and got dirt up here in the end, but the problem is up here. All right, so from the factory spec on throttle free play. So if you don't know what free play means, it means how much something moves freely before engagement. And it should rotate 3 to 5 millimeters before it starts to engage the cables and lift and open the butterfly on there, on the throttle body. If there's no free play here, that's a definite problem. When you turn the handlebars to the far left or right, the idle will likely go up. But all you need to do is to pull this rubber boot back if you've got a slow returning throttle. Pull this rubber boot back and adjust some free play in here with these. It doesn't matter which one you use. You can see one of mine is all the way in, one of them's out quite a ways. Yours don't have to be that way. Yeah, these don't fit in here solid. They just kind of float in there. And let's see, what was I going to say here? So adjust it to where you have some free play, and you do that here. And then your throttle should close, no problem whatsoever. And while I'm right here, I hear guys in parking lots at trailheads constantly grinding on their starter, no matter what brand the bike is or what model it is. Don't grind on your starter button. I mean, don't just push that thing in and hold it forever, hoping your bike's going to start. If it doesn't start quickly, then stop and reevaluate, do something differently. Because all you're going to do by pushing that button more is just get your starter overheated and damage it. So on what I do on my 2-strokes and 4-strokes, and by the way, this is the same adjustment method for the 4-strokes, KTM Husky and gas. So the way I start my bikes is first I just bump the starter button like that. Then I come back and I hit it. This bike has been sitting here. We've had lots of snow this winter, and I've got lots of other bikes, and I haven't ridden hardly at all this winter. This bike's probably been sitting for since December. I hate to say that, but it probably has. And this is the first time I started it. So just bump the starter and then hit the button and start it up. So that first bump that you give it kind of ignites the system, primes everything. And then when you hit the button the second time, it's ready to go. Now, if you have to sit there and ying, 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 ying on the starter, like I said before, stop and do something different. If it's a bike that has a carburetor on it, then you might want to shut the choke off and open the throttle wide open. If it's a TPI bike, if it doesn't start easily, then I'd say something's wrong with your mapping and your ECU. So anyhow, guys, sorry this video's gone on too far. You're probably nodding about now, ready to take a nap. But like I've said many times before, don't forget why you bought your bike. Get out and ride it. Everything doesn't have to be perfect. If your tire's a little worn out, whatever, go out and ride. Get some throttle therapy. If your bike's not running perfectly, whatever, get out and ride. Don't get too obsessed about every little nitpicky detail and let that prevent you from going for a ride. There's always time to work on your bike, so get out there and shred some rubber and have a good time. Nothing like throttle therapy. Then come home, clean up your bike and work on it. You'll feel a lot better and you'll probably have more success sorting things out. All right, guys, that's all for now. Ciao.